You know how we do. We like to push the envelope with the topics. We like to stretch you outside of the box. And we're excited to present today's topic. But you know the routine, the drill. Before we get to the topic, we gotta promote businesses. We Juice. Y'all gotta keep supporting this brother. Listen, he made some special stuff for me, right? Oh yeah, wejuice.com, right? All fresh juices. Support this brother, man. His name is Hassan Kareem McCullough, from a incredible family of just, I've never seen a family that talented athletically, right? And even the kid that doesn't have talent as an athlete is a fucking comedian, world-class comedian. I mean, the whole family is talented. Please support this brother. He has a special going. Order today and apply the code We Live, We Love, We Juice, and get 30% off. $5 per juice. All right. We Live, We Love, We Juice, and We Juice is spelled O-U-I. So please continue to support that brother. He made something special for me. These are turmeric shots. You know, I've already drank one, but he sent me 3 of them. So, turmeric shots. This is crazy, man. The dude, health guru extraordinaire. Over here, Kobe Coffee, man. Kobe Kaya Coffee, vitamin coffee. You got to go to KobeKaya.com. Interesting story about this dude. Last week I was like, who the hell is this guy? He's just sending me stuff, and I'm gonna support you. But here's an interesting story really quickly. This brother was a fan. Now I consider him a friend. He was a fan of the show way back when it was on the Foxhole, Jamie Foxx's Sirius XM satellite. He was listening to the Voice of Reason, and he was moved by the show. As a football coach, he brought in this kid who was in trouble. And he reached out to me on Facebook and said, hey man, I need you to mentor this kid. And we brought the kid on the show live, and we mentored the kid. And the kid, I'm not gonna put all his business out, but he had a tough go at it. And the brother's name is Kobe McFarland. He's a coach and he's a mentor. And once I connected the dots, thanks to Jake, man, I was like, man, Kobe McFarland is a great dude, a brother who gives a damn about these kids. So with that said, go support Kobe Kaya vitamin coffee. I'm drinking it now. It's delicious, by the way. And, you know, like I said, I don't get any money for this, so please support this guy, you know, please. I appreciate him. Arise Hospitality, the Black Office Depot. Everything you can get at Staples, you can get here. Please, if you're running a small business, you have no business spending your money with someone else. They'll save you money. It's just that simple. Black owned. Get at them right now. Also, the resumeguru.net. This is a sister by the name of Faith. Please support this sister. She's only trying to get you prepared to get that job. She can heal your resumes, which most of them are probably pretty shoddy. And she can give you a lot of life skill tips on how to go in there and land that job. I mean, this is a life skills coach. Please check her out. The resumeguru.net. Also, VeronicaConway.com, BlackMastery.com. Please continue to support BlackMastery.com. I'm going to keep rolling here. Elephant. These are my peoples. Elephant out of New York. If you like J. Crew, if you like Banana Republic, if you like Ralph Lauren Polo, black owned, tailor made, custom fit, please support their movement. Tell them Zoe Williams, Zoe What Show sent you. You get a 20% discount.
Wow.
Please support those guys. Let's see. Kobe Kaya. Oh. Especially for today's show, damn it. Bam. Just Listen and Talking to Crazy. Talking to Crazy will be out or we'll do it right here. Talking to Crazy, right, will be out in October. Dr. Mark Goulston's new work. Author of Just Listen. I'm trying to get it. There we go. Author of Just... right? Please support Dr. Mark Goulston and all of his works. It's very important that you do that. His works have changed my life. I read Just Listen, and I was like, okay, I'm really a poor communicator. But it's a great book. Please support Dr. Mark Goulston. Also, Rashid Edwards, right? Man, the 7 keys to goal achievement and transformation. The Secret Commitment by Rashid Edwards. Please support this brother's work. Oh, sorry. Yeah? Let me do it like that. Bam. Please support the brother's work. That's better, right? Yeah, I figured it out. And great news! The relationship dismount, I just got word, has been shipped from the printers today. I'm gonna have a whole shitload of books at the house. I'm excited. Please, if you want a physical copy, a paperback copy of the relationship dismount, please put your order in right now. IamZoeWilliams.com. Order the #1 relationship new release on Amazon.com in the divorce category. This is the #1 new release. Hey, I want you guys to continue to, support that Amazon.com movement. Every time I'm not on the radio, we don't sell any books. So please, it's only $10 on Amazon.com, the Kindle. So go there right now. I need you guys to cash mob me. Can I get 10 people right now to go to Amazon.com and download the Kindle version of the Relationship Dismount, How to Stick the Landing? That keeps my numbers up. That keeps my ranking up. And I would love for you to write a review. So far, we have 34 reviews. And of the 34 reviews, we have 33 5-star ratings. Only 1 4-star rating. And I appreciate the 4-star rating. I love your honesty. I love your truthfulness. Please cash mob us right now. Wait, I still got something to promote. Listen, I love helping businesses. Somebody reached out to me, a sister who purchased the relationship dismount, was like, I love your show and I work for this company. She works for an underwear company called MeUndies.com. Go there, right? She sent me a bag of drawers, right? Some fly shit too, though. Like, I'm definitely gonna put this on and then, show my my gut will be out, but my butt will be covered properly. She needs to get some drawers that cover your gut too. But she sent a bunch of stuff. Look at this, like some long pajama drawers. I don't know.
Whoa.
MeUndies.com. So let me show you the bag real quick. If you can see that. I don't know if you can see the writing on there, but it says MeUndies.com, right? Yo, man, go check them out. A sister. I was like, hey, sister, I'm going to support your movement. We got a lot of nice stuff. So that's what we got to do. I want to play this Black Mastery video as we go out. When we come back, the topic is going to challenge the shit out of you. I promise you. Please continue to support all of the movements that we presented here today. Don't forget, IamZoeWilliams.com. Pre-order your physical copy, your paperback copy of the Relationship Dismount, and continue to support it on Amazon.com. Kindle. I appreciate you, and we'll be back. Deuces.
Why is a white guy like me co-hosting a black radio show? I think toxic relationships cause you to take poor care of yourself. That if you can recognize danger, if you can pause, if you can take some breaths, refocus, and engage, you might be able to dodge a bullet that you're going to send or coming towards you. One of the things that men don't get is that often women need to vent first to clear their mind. Well, today's a tough topic, but we're going to turn into a good topic. We're going to be talking about grief today. And, when you've had a loss, or when you think of black people, since they've come to America, I don't think they've ever had a found. I mean, they've been perpetually lost. And so dealing with that. And one of the things about grief, and I hope people will call in, grief, if you don't feel grief, you go into depression after loss and you never come out. So grief is one of the things you feel to get out of the depression you feel after your loss. Years ago, I saw a woman whose only daughter was, she had her daughter's head was shotgunned off her head, ended up in a tree. And no one could relate to this because her husband was a stepdaughter. And so I wasn't really helping her. So she was stuck in depression, and it took a lot of arm twisting and whatever. And finally, I got her to join this group that Sharon Tate's mother started called Mothers of Murdered Children. And she said, I don't want to go. I don't want to hear other people. I don't want to hear other people's story. And I said, you got to go, because if you listen to anyone who hasn't been through it, no matter what they say, you're going to say it's easy for you to say because you've never been through it. And so what happened is she went there, and I attended a couple, and I'll tell you, and what they talk about is the status, how the child was murdered, the status of finding the perpetrator and all that, the status of, and what happened is, since she didn't have any kids, some of the other mothers, many from the inner city, many black, they were newly minted tragedies, and they looked up to her. But they looked up to her, so she had a purpose. And so I think the key, and I'm Jewish, and we went through stuff. We've been going through stuff for centuries, and World War II was kind of the icing on the cake. But I think what happens is you got to find a way to pull together, and then you got to get into solutions. That's the key. But you got to pull together, because sometimes that's the only way you can get into the grief and free yourself from the depression. Because when you just stay in your head in the depression, it's really, especially after an awful loss, it's tough getting out of that. And so maybe the take home is if you've had a loss of some kind, or if you're a whole race that's had a loss, you have to come together, and you got to feel safe to feel it. You got to feel safe to talk about how bad it feels, but then you got to lean into solutions. If you stay in angry victimhood, it's just going to be a vicious cycle, and you're going to go from victimhood to depression, back to victimhood. You're never going to get out of it.
Wow. With that said, today's topic, like he said, it's going to be a tough one, right? It's going to be a tough one. The Good Grief Show. A deeper look into the potential benefits of the unhappiness, pain, and grief associated with being a mentally conquered people. Mentally, socially conquered people. Can good come out of a perpetual state of grief? This is interesting. I always say black people are living soul food. You know how soul food is a delicacy. It's a metaphor for how we've coped and survived, right?
Okay.
It's a metaphor. It's not good for you, but we've taken a bad situation and turned it into soul food. We turned scraps into soul food.
Took chicken shit and made chicken salad.
How about it? And I'm saying, can good come from a perpetual state of grief? I have questions, and then I'm going to throw it to you guys. Is there such a thing as good grief or suffering? And I always use Lou Alcindor, right? Because this is what black people have done in America. Lou Alcindor is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar before, he's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
More ups than Alcindor.
Right. So the metaphor here is the NCAA, when this guy was in college at UCLA, changed the rules on Kareem because he was dunking and just killing everybody. You know, you go back and look at the old footage of him. He's literally a giant among boys, right? And he's killing everybody. So the NCAA came back and was like, okay, no dunking for you. We're going to change the rule, the Lou Alcindor rule. You don't get to dunk anymore, right? And he felt some kind of way about it, like this is racially motivated because I'm the only one here that can do this. So you're going to take an aspect away from my game to try to make it an even playing field. And it was his legendary coach, John Wooden, who said, they don't know, they just made you better. Because now you have to evolve. And if they hadn't have taken the dunk away from Kareem, he would have never developed the sky hook, the most undefensible shot or indefensible shot in basketball history. So I'm using the same metaphor to say, yes, you're oppressed. Yes, the rules are stacked against you. But can you use that grief as a stepping stone to greatness? Good grief. That's today's topic. How can the African American community do this? Geoff?
Well, I think grief without a lesson is just plain old fucking grief. Okay? I teach my children this all the time, is that the only parts of your past that exist are the parts that you energize.
Say more.
I remember distinctly the day I rode a bike. The first day I learned how to ride a bike, I was living in Overland Park, Kansas, and my stepfather, the cruel, hateful motherfucker that he is, may God not rest his soul, pushed, got me going on the bike. And I remember the bike. It was a Sears Free Spirit bike. I remember the day distinctly. What I cannot remember was that day what I had for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So the breakfast, lunches, and dinners don't exist. Only from your past, the things you energize have any existence. The rest of it doesn't. So if you're going to energize a negative event, you have to energize that event purely for the lesson. If you're energizing it to redo or replay, or that's part of your subconscious programming, then that's not good grief. Good grief is getting stung by a bee after hitting a bee's nest and learning, you know what, you shouldn't be fucking with that bee's nest. That's good grief right there.
So what you're saying is the current definition of the N-word, we don't even talk about Hulk Hogan's ass, but of the N-word is only vitriolic because we hold in a sacred space the past.
The vitriol, absolutely. And furthermore, something I learned from Brothers O. Williams, that 400-year swath, we'll call it 600-year swath of time, that the word nigga is negative, is like blinking your eyes and saying that because when I blink my eyes it is dark, there is no sun. There is so much before
so
that.
much more history.
So much more history to the word nigga than just what some white folks came along and fucked it over with for a blink. That's another thing. 400 years is a blink. It's a frickin' blink. We've been around for millions of years. 400 years ain't shit.
Dr. G, how do we escape the grief? Because there's an underlying grief.
Well, he mentioned something I want to build on. It's actually in the Talking to Crazy book, and I think I may have talked about it in a previous thing. It's something I call the 72-hour hold. So whenever something bad happens to you, if you can say to yourself, don't do anything to make it worse for 72 hours, what's going to happen is you're going to often, now this is not for a whole race and a whole that's been going on for 100 years, but if you're trying to deal with just day-to-day things that don't go your way, if you can just say to yourself, don't do anything to make it worse for 72 hours, the majority of people who have learned great lessons have learned them because something bad preceded them. And the problem is when something bad precedes them, when you have a breakdown to get to a breakthrough, what happens is most people do things to cope with the bad thing that happened, and they make it worse, and they miss the breakthrough because they're so busy apologizing to someone else or feeling ashamed. And so if you can not do anything to make it worse for 72 hours after something doesn't go your way, often things will reveal themselves to you that never would have revealed themselves had you not had that fallen down in the face.
Wow.
Well,
Listen, you hear the music. I just got to go to break really quickly, but say it, Jeff.
I think and oftentimes my people are guilty of this, that they confuse sitting still with doing nothing.
Ooh. Mm-hmm. Stillness, peace.
Stillness is not doing nothing. Stillness is the process of doing nothing negative and allowing positive to come to you, because positive will come to you if you just sit still. A lot of times you just don't, I'm finna go blast them niggas. No, sit still. Just sit still for a minute.
Wow. Man, somebody on Twitter just said, grief without a lesson is pain. Pain without relief is depression. Depression without catharsis is death. Shit. We'll be back in 2.2. Are we the living dead today, the African American community, because we haven't discharged that grief? We'll be back in 2.2. Zoe Williams.
Further suffering is not necessary if you voluntarily step into the new state of consciousness. You choose the kingdom of heaven. Life doesn't have to drag you into it, kick you into the kingdom of heaven. It's painful. It did that to me. But now my job is to tell people that you don't have to wait for that to happen to you. Choose the new state, and you are able to do that. I wouldn't tell this to anybody, but not anybody comes here. If you come here, your level of consciousness, the new consciousness, is sufficiently emerged already for you to understand what I mean when I say you can choose to live in the state that is free of suffering. You can choose the state in which suffering is not possible anymore. Unhappiness does not arise. Not a state in which you close yourself and you become, okay, nothing can touch me anymore. Protective shell, nothing to do with that, because if nothing can touch, if you have a protective shell around you, that means that all the beautiful and good things can't touch you anymore either. That's not what it is. It's a state of complete openness, a state of such intense presence that unhappiness has nowhere to cling to anymore. Because unhappiness can only cling to a mentally made sense of self, a little me, past, which moves continuously in past and future and continuously ignores the now.
I was numb and exhausted, but this time I faced grief rather than running from it. I knew it could be my teacher, and I turned where humans have always turned in times of challenging transition. I turned to ritual. It's human to create meaningful ritual. Anthropologists know they've discovered civilization when they find signs of ritual at ancient burial sites. We ritualize weddings and baby showers, baptisms and funerals. We create rites of passage to connect our worldly and our sacred life, to move us from where we are to where we must go. I needed to move from the safety of my marriage through a vast ocean of grief to find the woman I am on my own. Personal ritual helped me make that journey.
What's your narrative? Who wrote it? What's your ritual? Right? Getting money and hustling, get rich or die trying, can't be our ritual. Right? When you look at who we are today as a people, when you talk about the grief that comes from it. Chasing a debt certificate creates grief in our community. It devalues the priceless price tag on lives. Is that not true? Like, my daughter is 15. I showed her a video about money, and she almost wanted to cry, because in her mind, money is everything. But when I showed her it was nothing, she said, "Dad, it's too soon for me to know this. I love money, man. Damn it." Okay, but that's what it is.
You chasing nothing.
But once she understood it, it's almost like she grew up 4 years. She was like, "Oh, that's what I'm chasing?"
Yeah.
It shocked her.
This bullshit agreement?
It shocked her. And so my point is, we have grief reinforcing rituals in our community. That sister said rituals get you to extrapolate the goodness that grief presents.
Do you think there's a connection between, I don't know how this is going to come out, so between, there seems to be an addiction to getting more sooner to deal with the aversion of settling for less later. And I think what happens is we don't even know how it's going to make us feel, but it feels like, oh, I got to get more sooner. Well, does it ever make you happy? Well, I don't know. I know anything less than that will make me unhappy. And then I think if you're all chasing after more sooner, then you're competing against each other. It goes against cooperation. It goes against community. It goes against caring about other people, and it feels like less later is like it's awful.
I have just come to this revelation. All the time that I am around you and I am not high is wasted. It's wasted. Do you know how much growth I would experience if I could get you to speak to my high self? My weeded self? Oh, that's it. From now on, I'm doing the show high. Just so I can. That's dope. To defer in fear of less later. Yeah, that's everybody. That's everybody. I got to get it now. I got to get it now.
And when you look at our folk and you see what their definition of happiness is, it's empty. It's accumulative. Well, you would think having this degree and this job and this amount of money and this amount of freedom that I would be happy. And being married for this long and having these children, I would be fulfilled. And you find, just because you have satellites of accomplishments orbiting you, right? Just because you have these things that somebody said meant you were successful.
That tears it. Jake, you got any weed in there? Jake from State Farm? Yeah, that tears it. I need to be high to listen to this shit.
But do you understand what I'm saying? You've accumulated all of these things, and on paper, you look like a champion.
The orbit of accomplishment.
Yeah.
You just got shit just orbiting you.
Go ahead, Jeff. Just finish it.
And they're going to die. I was going to save this for the rant. But the happiness, and I won't even say just of black people, but it gets worse. Anything that's a problem gets worse when you get to black people. Okay? If America has a cold, black people got cancer.
Yes.
That's the truth.
Yes.
So the concept of happiness is this is based upon the construct of this habit trail that's been set up for you to, because black people love, that's the appeal of expensive shit. They want everybody to think that it's okay at home. Oh, it's okay. Oh, I'm no, you're not. No, you're not.
Right.
No, you are not, because none of us are. Okay? You may have the highest seat on the Titanic. But you're still going this way.
You're still sinking.
All of us are doing this. It doesn't matter. It don't matter about your house. It don't matter about your position at your job. It does not matter because of the falseness that this habit trail that told you need a 3,000 square foot house and you have to buy a car every 2.5 years and you have to wear the latest sneakers because if you don't, you're a failure somehow. It is that thing, that habit trail that is faulty, and it makes the rest of what you do faulty. Almost like doing a super elaborate math equation. If you fuck up somewhere at the beginning, the rest of it's wrong. The rest of it's wrong. It doesn't. You got to go back to why.
If you fuck up somewhere in the beginning,
the rest of it's wrong.
The rest of the equation.
I got sent to the principal's office for that.
That's brilliant.
If I mess this up at the beginning, the rest of it's wrong. That's what you're saying, right?
Right.
You can save us a lot of time.
So, a lot of people misinterpret what the word means. They think it just means loss.
Oh, grief, yeah.
But if you look it up, I always tell people get the etymological dictionaries, not just the definitionary. Right? That's what a dictionary is. It's a definitionary because it's a book of definitions. It doesn't necessarily give you the origin of the word that's being defined. So to do that, you have to go to, word origins, and there are dictionaries out there, etymological dictionaries that explain where this word came from. And then apply communication, which is this the connotation or the denotation of the word? The connotation is the slang, the colloquialism that the word is currently used as. The denotation is the root where this word came from and what it originally meant.
Like bling came from Lil Wayne, but it means...
Oh, okay. So the word grief means hardship, suffering, pain, bodily affliction. From Old French means wronged, grievance, injustice, misfortune, calamity. Look at those terms and apply them to black life in America. And all the leaders and the elites of the black community can say is get a good education.
So you trying to tell me...
Is that not the number one? You clean yourself up and get a good education and get a job, and then you're safe. And then America's dream opens up. Are you telling me wronged, grievance, injustice, misfortune, oppress? Yes, oppress is in the etymological breakdown of the word grief. So is grievance, so is grave. Grave like in it, with the dirt on you. You telling me to live in a society with institutional racism at all levels of its existence or of its operation?
For centuries. Education,
religion, work, right? Come on. You telling me we're not in a perpetual state of grief? I say we're copers. We've been conditioned to cope. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I think what the way I was best able to break it down, because this subject has a lot of
layers,
feelings for me, and layers that I have to bust my ass to try to explain.
Go ahead, Jeff.
When we were discussing actually the Bible on Facebook, and I said that for those of you in my generation who believe the Bible to be the undeniable, indisputable, complete, accurate Word of God, because you believe it, you're not lying. And your mother wasn't lying.
Right.
And her mother wasn't lying.
Right.
And her mother wasn't lying. And her mother wasn't lying.
Right.
However, the motherfucker that gave it to her
lied his ass off.
Lied his ass off. So you are in here's a high thought. If the history of mankind is a grilled cheese sandwich,
yep,
you are a deep mini molecule inside the cheese.
Okay, yeah, this is
You
a high-
have no concept of bread, butter, heat, oven, hunger, impetus to make a sandwich. You have none of that.
Right.
Because your point of view is in this melted goo of cheese as a molecule around millions of other molecules of cheese. You're going to have to try to figure out how to get your ass out the cheese, off the bread, out the oven, and take a look at the motherfucker who made the sandwich.
God, what are you going to do for the rant?
Jesus. Jeez.
Dig that?
That was the pre-rant. That was
pre-rant. That
was foreplay.
That's some deep shit right there.
Let's just do
Just
post-production.
edit the fucking show and put that at the rant.
Yeah,
Can
yeah.
we do that?
Wow. Listen, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, the So What Morning Show. T Radio V. Radio and TV. Today's topic, good grief. Is there any good that can be extrapolated from
This shit.
From this shit here? We'll be back. So we're back. So What Morning Show. We're talking about good grief. And, you know, I'm looking at all of the things that are happening in America. You know, Sandra Bland, man, let me just say condolences to the sister's, you know, family, you know, her mother. You know, it's Sandra Bland today, right? Right now, it's Sandra Bland. Just a few months ago, it was countless others.
Well,
you know,
and to me, the sadness is that we always, as black people, which is where Jews have us quantumly eclipsed, is that it is impossible. I've said this before, I say it again. From my vantage point, it is impossible to fuck with one Jew. You can't. You fucking with them all. When you say something, Jews are so gangster, they got people scared to compliment them. Do you know what kind of gangster that is? Do you know that gangster back in the day that you ain't gonna even say that nigga's shoes look good, because he might kick your ass. That there is where they are. Black people keep seeing Sandra Bland as that girl in Texas. What if that girl in Texas was your daughter? Well, guess what? She is.
but do you know how lonely it is to have a child? And I'm only imagining. To have a child
And you only want to.
taken away
Yeah.
in the way she was taken away, and then not feel the support of your people. Right?
Okay. Here's my problem with black leaders. Where's the NAACP right now? Well, the problem is that Sandra and her family are not colored people. Colored people are from a long time ago. We need somebody to help us now. And I'm not talking about the investigation that shows that she was proven a suicide. I'm not talking about any of that. What I am talking about is the demand of a social deposition of every police officer that was in contact with Sandra, to start with the dude that pulled her over. When she got to the station, we need to round all of you motherfuckers up, and we're gonna have a chit chat. But that, if we were
problem
as
is,
a people, okay, I mean, I'm mad now.
Okay,
if we
go
were as a people to show up in her town, if 1 million black people showed up and said, we want those motherfuckers right there, and we don't care how many of us die to get them. I'm not saying what we gonna do to them, but we gonna talk to them. It would be a lot less. The moratorium on killing black people would back up a little bit.
But you know what it is? And then I'm going to throw it to Dr. G. Black people are resigned to live like this.
Yeah, they love the habit trails.
Freedom is associated with death. Black folk collectively want no parts of dying for freedom. They would rather live comfortably in imprisonment, so long as it's comfortable.
Yeah.
It's just what it is. You got people, I'm not a Christian, but I guarantee you'd be hard pressed to find a Christian that would die for Christ right now.
Oh, hell no.
Like before.
That's serious.
That's serious.
That's
Like
serious.
that would die for Jesus right now.
You can't take black.
Take me out right now, because this is what I believe.
You get in trouble when you take black Christians more serious than a really big bowling team. I take like a bowling team. Nobody wants to die for the leader of the bowling team. It's just a bowling team, okay? We get together, we wear the same clothes, we keep score, somebody gets a trophy. That's what black Christianity is. It's like a big bowling team.
There's a guy, there's a psychologist, famous psychologist at I think University of Pennsylvania, named Martin Seligman. And Martin Seligman years ago was a proponent of something called learned helplessness. That you learn to be helpless and you stay there. And then an interesting thing happened about, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. He had children, and his daughter said, "Gee, Dad, you're negative all the time." And so now he's flip-flopped, and he is now the proponent of resilience training. He's doing it with the U.S. Army, and it's all about this, not Pollyanna, but a positive view, a take charge, be proactive in your life, because his daughter sort of said, you're kind of a drag, Dad. But I wonder how much this learned helplessness, is pervasive in the black community and other communities. We're just helpless. Nothing we can do can change. But something I wanted to segue to. I guess the challenge is, we can yell and rant and whatever here. But how do you
Geoff?
He's coming up. How do you get people to care? How do you get people to care about people's inhumanity to man? And I want to show a video which I think is one of the best examples of man's inhumanity to man. And I'm not talking about war. I'm talking about something that's happening within a mile of where you live. We can show that.
Wow. You got it? Great stuff.
I hate the homeless. I don't feel sorry for you. If you want change, let me throw it at you as hard as I can
at your
dirty face.
I hate when it gets cold out, because then all the homeless people get on the bus.
I wonder if homeless people go to heaven.
Maybe if homeless people took care of themselves, looked pretty, we would want to help them. But I don't help yellow teeth. Well,
never understand why homeless people smell of piss when you can literally piss anywhere.
I was enjoying a latte when I saw a hobo girl across the street. I almost vomited. Get back on your side of the bridge, no one likes you.
I hate seeing homeless people standing in the cold, shivering. Be glad when the light turns green. Well, that'll make it go away, won't it?
If homeless is where the heart is, then are homeless people heartless?
Wow.
Far from it.
Does that get to you?
Well, I'll tell you why it didn't. Because I am not under any illusion about the illusion that most Americans are under. Americans are by far the fattest, most ignorant group of motherfuckers that I have ever seen on a planet. The most self-absorbed, uninvolved. Nobody at all wants to say, maybe some of these people are homeless because of the jobs that were outsourced, or
mental illness,
illness, or any multitude, any number of equations or elements that brought together that equation.
How many homeless people have master's degrees?
Dude, yes.
Doctorates.
Yes, I was homeless for 4 months. For 4 months, when thumbnail sketch. My ex-wife, we broke up, and she left like I was beating her. And I swear to God, there were people who wished I had, but I never put my hands on her or nothing. We just broke up. She left Chicago. I laid down with $9,000 in my account. I woke up with $48. She cleaned out my account, took my kids, and came back here. There was no way I was going to try to parent. You can't parent across state lines unless the two of you live within 5 miles of it. There's no parenting from a distance. So I had to come back here. I was living well in Chicago. I came back here. I was supposed to have a job writing commercials that I wrote one, and they aired it, and they paid me, and then they never called me again. So now I'm scrambling. And then a friend of mine had a friend of his get a divorce, and they supposedly had a house that we were all going to live in, and all I had to do, no first, no last, no security, just roll over and give my $700 and put my shit in. Now, I was living in the most horrible apartment complex in Pasadena. It was a dope spot, literally.
The one across the street from the high school?
Yeah, the one across the street.
Yeah.
You know, that was dope. That's a dope spot. But it was cheap. Right after I told my apartment manager the multitude of ways he could kiss my monkey ass, with the truck in the alley bringing my shit out of the apartment I had, phone call. Nigga, you ain't gonna believe this. We thought that we got the house, but apparently the house was in foreclosure and the wife didn't tell the husband, so we don't have no. Now, I'm out of my apartment. I don't have first and last and security to move nowhere because I didn't save that. I got $700 and my shit downstairs. I had to put my shit in storage. I had to join 24-hour fitness, and I was basically living out of my storage, sleeping in my truck, and showering at the gym for 4 months until I could get my shit together. And it had nothing to do with me being lazy. It had nothing to do with me being out of my mind. It had nothing to do with me being shiftless or not being able to hold on to a job.
How about it?
Elements came together that made me homeless.
How many motherfuckers are going to be homeless if and when the dollar tanks?
That's what it's going to take. You asked what it's going to take to bring folk together. When the dollar crash. Dollar going to have to crash. This bullshit that separates us all.
Yeah. Take us out, Jeff.
When we come back, more about why most Americans ain't shit.
Geoff Brown.
Geoff Brown.
Oh, wow. We cover this often, and I say it often, and here it is again. What's going to happen is that the two groups of people who are going to wake up to make true change, in my opinion, are going to be regular white people and black women. Regular white people.
Wow.
You are regular if you can't get into a country club. If you wear plaid. What's up, Jake? The cultural elite don't wear plaid. They don't. And they have you convinced that you are somehow better than the other groups of people that they're fucking over. And that's one of the few thin threads. That and the social sleep of the African American female are the two threads holding all this shit together. And they're getting thinner and thinner and thinner every day. When you wake up and figure out that in 2008, black people, as we have been, are only 14% of this population and half of the prison population. This means that the jobs outsourced and the houses lost did not nearly belong to as many black people as white people. White people, it is you, in the words of LBJ. If you...
Who is LBJ for
Lyndon
the young?
Baines Johnson.
Yeah.
The president who took over by default after the last real president was assassinated.
Wow.
If you can convince a white man that he is better, if you can convince the lowest white man that he is better than the best black man, You don't have to pick his pockets. He will empty them for you. Wow. And this is what your problem is. This is where we are, is that we are somehow leaning on the laurels of the 1940s and 50s America, which was prime. It was right after the effects of stealing one group of people for 400 years and then bombing the sweet shit out of the rest of the world who could be your competition. From the 40s, those 30 years, from the 40s to the 70s, was why America was so prime and why it came into being. It was because we bombed anybody who could have given us true competition, and we had this free labor. Well, the effects of that are wearing off, and we are now seeing scores of ignorant motherfuckers walking around with this America is the greatest place, and if you don't get behind the troops, then maybe you should get in front of them. And all of this patriotic bullshit that is sold to you so that you can send your children off to die in the interests of the power elite. Wow. You're going to have to wake up from that shit. And the one wake-up call, the alarm clock will be when they finally figure out what the fuck they going to do with us 250 million people when they officially tell you that your dollar is worthless. That's when the shit is going to hit the fan. That is when, in my opinion, my particular prediction is when they're going to really start to cull the earth of 2/3 of its population. Newsflash. Black people don't make up 2/3 of the earth's population. You think about that.
Wow. Man, good grief.
Good grief.
Can we, as a people, get to a plateau in American life where you say, you know, this is pretty damn good. This is pretty damn good. Some people would say I'm being negative by putting this show together and talking about all the underpinning of everything that's going on, right? You mentioned patriotism. Well, patriotism is another religion. It's just the religion of your country, right? So you blindly back whatever, even if it's wrong, right? To me, grief is inherent in American success. You have to just be willing to embrace being in states of grief if you're going to be successful here in America, because you're going to have to lose friends. Is this not the way of big business and the way of, hey, dog eat dog, and aren't our relationships indicative and reflective of this same kind of mentality? Grief is part of success in America. At some point you got to be like, I knew I couldn't trust you, and you talking to your wife. This is why I had a contingency plan for your ass.
I want to take it in a different direction and tee up you, Zoe, in your book. Because when I think about the relationship dismount and getting out of a toxic relationship, grief, talk about grief and that kind of thing, you know, and, you know, give people kind of a taste of kind of your thinking, what's in that book. But where is the grief in that? You know, what part of the relationship dismount, and after you've gotten out of one of these toxic relationships by the skin of your teeth and maybe not that much, where does grief filter into that and weigh into that?
I learned a lot about this particular aspect of it from you, Doc. One term, you said despair. Give us the definition of despair. And from that, it shaped my thought on it.
You know, I used to be a suicide specialist, and a third of the people I was seeing when I was an early psychiatrist made multiple suicide attempts. And when I would talk about suicide, and I actually wrote a blog when Robin Williams committed suicide, and I said that people, that he didn't die from depression, because hundreds of millions of people have depression and they don't kill themselves. He died from despair. And what I meant by that is, if you break the word despair into DES-PAIR, they're people who feel unpaired. They feel unpaired with hope, hopeless, unpaired with worth, worthless, meaningless, pointless, useless, purposeless. And what happens is when all those things line up, you know, like the slot machine, the bad slot machine, they all line up with all those lesses, you pair with death as the way to make it all go away.
Wow.
But and that's why when I would be trying to train people, I'd say you've got to pair with people in their despair. If you give them solutions and advice that they don't have any energy to take, they'll just smile and say, I guess you can't help me, can you? And so and so I think so. I hope that's kind of what you're getting at, Zoe, and talk about how that despair and unpaired and the relationship dismount, how those all fit together.
And working on the book, I just recognized that you're not really disconnected from your partner. You're really disconnected from the idea you had of the relationship, right? So when the partner goes away, you're just devastated because your idea of what this union would be didn't come to fruition.
That's why it's so hard for you to watch other people walk hand in hand.
Because they got
this idea.
Right.
And you don't even know. He's like, boy, ooh.
And even
I'm holding this bitch hand so I don't sock her in the face. You don't even know if that's what's on his. Or she's like, I cannot wait till this food die because I'm going to keep it. You don't know what's on their mind.
Right.
You just are rolling on this fostered idea that of your paradigm of what it's supposed to be.
You just triggered something. I got to get this out or else we'll go to break, but I'll make it quick. Because part of what you're saying is a lot of people can't let go of a future that's not going to happen and was never going to happen.
Right.
And they can't let go of it.
Right.
And I'm wondering how many couples, how many relationships really go down the toilet because one of them is overly connected to a future, and they're banking on it, and they don't even see the person they're with.
Wow.
They don't even help them where they are because they're too connected to this future.
Yeah.
And anything that gets in the way of it, such as the other person being a person.
Yeah.
You know, you just kick to the side, and then of course when things break up, you're so connected to that future that's not going to happen. You can't let go of it.
But here's the thing: they don't recognize you're not even really in relationship with this person.
Absolutely.
It's just the idea you're in relationship with. And man, when you wake up to that realization,
nobody else hears that? That's a Prince song. That's a Prince and George Clinton song.
What is?
If anybody know Prince and George Clinton,
we're having a moment, Jeff.
They need to go into the studio. Can't let go of future. That wasn't gonna happen in the first place. Bounce, don't. Ow! Can't let go of future. That wasn't gonna happen in the first place. Nobody else hears it.
No.
Okay. I like that.
Only you.
I'd buy that.
Oh my God! With George Clinton and Prince. Oh Jesus. Okay, I'm sorry.
Don Cornelius's personal DJ.
Right?
Jesus, I don't know what you're thinking about. Listen, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, Veronica Conway will join the conversation. Ronnie Con. Yeah. Hey, we'll be back at 2.2. Zo What Morning Show. Hey, good grief.
There's a metaphorical use of the word waiting in Scripture. It's interesting that in English, too, we use the word attendant in terms of one who waits on. I'm trying to penetrate the notion of waiting and patience in relation to this.
I think waiting again means one who is waiting for something. Again, there is a duality in that. And when you wait, you are expecting. Again, a duality. One who is waiting, about to receive. So, if we could, for the moment, hold ourselves to that word, attention, then we should inquire, what is the quality of a mind that is so attentive that it has understood, lives, acts in relationship and responsibility as behavior, and has no fear psychologically in that we talked about, and therefore understands the movement of pleasure, then we come to the point, what is such a mind?
In white skin. They begin to recognize who their enemy was. The same man that was colonizing our people in Kenya was colonizing our people in the Congo. The same one in the Congo was colonizing our people in South Africa and in southern Rhodesia and in Burma and in India and in Afghanistan and in Pakistan. They realized all over the world where a dark man was being oppressed, he was being oppressed by the white man. Where the dark man was being exploited, he was being exploited by the white man. So they got together under this basis, that they had a common enemy. And when you and I here in Detroit and in Michigan and in America, who have been awakened today, look around us, we too realize here in America, we all have a common enemy. Whether he's in Georgia or Michigan, whether he's in California or New York, he's the same man. Blue eyes and blonde hair and pale skin. Same man. So what we have to do is what they did. They agreed to stop quarreling among themselves. Any little spat that they had, they'd settle it among themselves. Go into a huddle. Don't let the enemy know that you got a disagreement. Instead of us airing our differences in public, we have to realize we're all the same family. And when you have a family squabble, you don't get out on the sidewalk. If you do, everybody calls you uncouth, unrefined, uncivilized, savage. If you don't make it at home, you settle it at home. You get in the car.
Krishnamurti and Malcolm X together. Krishnamurti is talking about fear. Fear leads to grief. Listen, George Lucas studied Joseph Campbell. Joseph Campbell studied Krishnamurti. Right? Where do you think Yoda gets all the deep shit he spews out on Star Wars? From these guys. So Krishnamurti is talking about how fear...
Hose I pimp.
More.
Your grief. Grief you deal with. Because life you do not fuck with. Weed I smoke.
Right.
Hose
no,
I pimp.
he's saying fear, right? You're afraid you don't want you're not going to get what you want. What you want is the fulfillment of the idea. So now you're investing in trust, which is a fucking illusion. Right? Then you back that with Malcolm. Equally powerful. How can you experience happiness or any semblance of it if you're disorganized? If you don't have mutual respect and care for that which looks like you. Yeah, not all of us are good. But let's handle the bad within us in-house, behind closed doors. You see, it's all very valuable information.
If your happiness is not organized, it's just growing in foolishness. So it can't be true.
Veronica is on the show right now. Veronica, you hear what I'm talking about. Yes. Good grief. Yes. Black people just in this sustained coping kind of life, go along to get along, look the part, but miserable.
Yeah. You like that nickname, don't lie.
Yes, thank you. Hey, dear men. I'll say this because it is my business, it is my work, it is my vocation to have very deep, intimate conversations with Black people, and I've been doing it for 15 years, right? So I've served the Black community. So I get to see where people are at. I have a pretty good finger on the pulse because of the nature of my business. So what I observe is that we're not actually grieving. That's the problem. What we default to, instead of, because grieving means that we'd have to actually feel the feelings. We'd have to let the feelings resurface. We'd have to cry the tears. We would have to reprocess the rage. What we're doing is we're engaging in numbness, we're engaging in resignation, and we're engaging in trance. But none of that is actually grieving.
Say more, damn it. Lady style.
So I see this all the time, because oftentimes when I work with people, what I have to get to, if I'm going to remove their blocks, I have to get them to go in and face their deepest fear, face their deepest wound, face what it means to be black, face what it means to feel broke. But you have to square off of all of that, and we've developed such coping mechanisms that we don't do that. Now, I'm going to say that there's two major societal things that we are in fundamental denial about that keeps us numb. The first one is that to understand that the people that are oppressing us right now are sociopaths, and they have institutionalized their pathology, and we keep trying to make sense and look at what is fundamentally inhumane and try to reconcile it with being humane. And I think as long as we don't cop to the fact to ourselves that we are in a state of war with a bunch of sociopaths that need to take us off the earth, as long as we don't fully come into alignment with that thought, we will always be kind of tripping around the edges, right? Kind of numb, kind of checked out, because we're not willing to face the truth.
But you know what's really big about what you're saying? That was the purpose of the pathological altruism show. Because under the guise of altruism, I'm really reinforcing the class difference, the race difference. Because I'm always in a position to give you something or listen to your demands. This is why I was saying to ask for diversity, right? To demand diversity is to reinforce racism. Why? Because you're asking the power structure to acknowledge you. So part of that acceptance reinforces the racist mind state. Like, at some point I'll acknowledge you. I'll acknowledge that you're equal to me. But right now, I don't have to listen to your voice. Oh, I want to be on ABC. Oh, we're breaking records. A black woman on ABC as a white president's mistress.
Right.
Really?
Right.
This is.
And so.
Do you see what I mean? Like.
I see exactly what you mean. I think, first off, it didn't get this way till a few years ago, but my stomach turns every time I hear about the first black blank. Oh, well, he was the first black dude to work here, and
but that reinforces it.
God, what is it? How tail wagging the dog is it? And I don't care how racist this sounds. How tail wagging the dog is it? When it is you and it is your people, where all mathematics, all science, all medicine comes from, that you are validated by your inclusion with and your being equated to someone else. Something that's why is the Oscar so important? Why isn't BET everything it should be? Why isn't BET? Why don't professional athletes go, I'm going to give 20% of my money to a black network? Why?
Why is Blackish on TV
at all?
The whole subject matter of Kind of Black.
Yeah.
Because we're successful.
And no diss to those that are working.
No diss.
No diss to that cast.
But the concept of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're going to do something slightly different. Right? You're going to do something slightly different for BET. But for ABC, in order for that to fly on that network, we got to do Blackish, a kind of black, which is a nebulous kind of limbo for successful black people who are too successful to really connect with the hood where, you know, maybe a generation ago they were living. And now because they have education and economics backing them, right, they're now in this limbo space where they're living where whites live, they're educated, but they're not really accepted there either. So it's a black-ish kind of experience. That's the same reason why they created the fucking boule in the first place.
Yes, yes. Well, the very fact that it exists speaks more to, is the catharsis the word I'm looking for? You two guys are smarter than me. The catharsis of general black people to begin with. The very fact that there's somebody who is living this, that I'm too black for white people and that I'm too white for black people. The fact that you live this sickness is sad enough. That you can't just be. That you can't, and not that you just can't be with us. You can't just be with you.
Well, go even further. We're seeing lifestyles that were labeled insane at one point being acknowledged as a true form of expression and way of being, but how they got there was based off of our struggle and our template.
Say more, damn it.
So that lifestyle was considered insane at one point, but now it's not insane because they had powerful lobbyists that got them taken out of the book of mental insanities. So then we come back to our lifestyle and it's like, no, you stay in your status. Fuck your argument. Fuck how intelligent it is. Fuck how logical it is to be acknowledged as a being, a person. No, we're still a status and a class here. You can't tell me that doesn't come with a concomitant amount of grief, where you can't be yourself in the world. And then parenthetically, you influence the world from a space of servitude. Right? How fucking crazy is that? We'll be back in 2 seconds, man. The Zoa Morning Show. Crazy. Good grief.
And the root cause of the problem, the root cause is, and I hate to say this because I know people don't like to hear it, but it's the fact that there is a breakdown of economic opportunity in African American communities. So the breakdown of opportunity creates all these other things. It's like a domino effect. So you're going to have your traumatic stresses. You're going to have your violence. You're going to have father not being in the home because, America, the economic opportunity isn't there. And then usually you have to like lay that on top of the fact that in a lot of black communities, you have food deserts. You're not getting healthy food. You're not getting you have health deserts. You're not getting the best health care possible. You can't make it to and from the doctor. You see where I'm going with this, America? You see it, right? There's a pattern here. And we as a nation, we have reached a tipping point in this country. America, we're close to tipping over.
First century.
Over 41,000 Americans died by suicide in 2013, a number that's climbed steadily in recent years. Some who work in suicide prevention believe poor U.S. economic conditions are partly to blame, much like the Greek debt crisis that led to a jump in suicides there.
What you see is people losing jobs or people having to work extra jobs, and so those life stressors are increased, and that impacts things like personal relationships, work stress, criminal legal problems go up, substance abuse rates go up, and so all of those things are connected.
Something's wrong with Patrick.
But McKee believes it's depression that causes most people to take their own lives.
As I look back and start to put the pieces together, it's like, oh, yes, he must have been suffering with a depression, and he hid it from all of us.
Can only do so much. Hugs can do much more than words. But when hugs can't do anything, that's where faith kicks in. For me, words and hugs were not enough, but I had no faith. So I tried to give up. At age 10, tried to drown myself in 6 inches or 15 centimeters of water. In my home, I told my dad I just wanted to relax. But really, I wanted to end my life. I had enough. Dosta mi bio. Okay? The first 2 times I rolled over, I was trying to work out how much air I hold in my lungs before I let it out. And the third time, in my mind, knowing that I wanted to get out of here because of the bullying in my life, because I was going to be a burden to my parents and I had nothing to look forward to, I realized at that moment that if I actually went through with committing suicide, I would leave a greater burden for my parents than they already had. So there was one thing less hopeful or more burdensome than having a child without limbs. What is it? A child without limbs who gives up. So when I saw in my mind my mom and my dad and my brother crying at my grave if I went through with it, that one thought saved me. If my parents never told me that I was beautiful the way that I was, if my parents never told me that I was special and that I was loved, I wouldn't be here today.
He a handsome cat, but I got a few questions. How was he actually planning on killing himself? That's question number one. That is okay. How you going? And you say he one of the leading motivational speakers?
Yes. Yes.
He's making a lot of paper, but he can't make it rain. Can't make it rain.
Oh God.
I'm sorry.
What is wrong?
I'm sorry.
He's a comedian.
Those are the thoughts. I don't know if I'm a comedian because I have those thoughts, or I have those thoughts because I'm a comedian. But
he couldn't help himself.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Maybe I shouldn't have shared that. Go ahead. Go on with your program.
But that was an interesting thing that he was saying.
Yeah.
I mean, those videos are pointing out that, first off, suicide rates are rising among African American young boys from 5 to 11.
5 to 11?
5 to 11. There's a spike in suicide amongst African American young men. You look at fatherlessness in our, community. And now I'm gonna say this: a lot is made of fatherlessness, but I'm not one who looks at a thing in a linear way. I look at things contextually. There are mitigating factors everywhere, and then at the same time, it's like that other stat: 72% of African American or 70% of African American women are not married. Well, you're not factoring in the percentage that want to be single, that kind of enjoy the single life. You're not factoring in, just different angles of the argument. If you just want to narrow it down to just 70% of them, well, then we can say, okay, well, 54% of African or American white women are single and not married, right? So, like, a lot of people, throw the stats out there and try to make this big to-do about it, but what I do know is black boys need black male mentorship.
Absolutely.
Regardless, right? Just period. I don't care if their dad is there or not. And I think we as a community are so hustle-minded that we forget part of the future hustle requires sowing seeds into young hustlers on the assembly line coming up after you. And a lot of us, because America is so competitive and singular in your hustle, most of us have teams and don't feed the team because the hustle is singular. And then we wind up getting sabotaged by the team because we forgot who got us there. Do you understand?
In the words of Damon Dash, I hustle for my last name, not my first.
But do you see what I'm saying? Like, the hustle in other communities is a collaborative movement. When you see the Asian movement, it's a real situation.
That's for real. They're not sending, yes, and those of you, please be offended, black people who talk about going to college to become well-rounded. Asians do not send their children to college to become well-rounded. They send them to become surgeons. So while you niggas is learning how to step, get your shit together. You know how many black college graduates I know that can't conjugate a fucking verb?
I'm not even going to argue that.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. Just to get off on a tangent.
Here we go.
You're a doctor. So if your your history, you're a little foggy on history, or your math is not so good. So what? You're a doctor. Okay? If I'm a dentist and, oh man, I'm not so good at writing, well, no, I'm a dentist. If you go to am I wrong for this? If you go to a 4-year university and you don't have a doctor, dentist, accountant, if you just went there for 4 years, shouldn't you be a whiz at either English, math, science, or history? And if not, what the fuck was you doing with your parents' money?
Wow.
I don't think I'm way off with that.
No, you're not. Listen, education is for putting on airs. It's not. Everybody in my family, we got everything. We got engineers, we got lawyers, we got doctors, we got everything. My uncle, who when he was 19 years old was an engineer student at UCLA. And he told me, he said, man, let me tell you something. Education is for relationships in business.
Damn.
When you get a diploma, right? He said that diploma is a passport to mingle with people who have resources at a higher level. That's what it is. They're not going to mingle with people who don't have that. So he said education is about relationships. And he said, yeah, there are some schools out there that's going to change your world in terms of the information you get. But education, like anything else in America, is tiered. The education at Harvard is specialized for a reason. They're specializing in turning out world leaders. So you think it's easy to just be African American and fall into Harvard? No. You have to be something that they would say, if I had to choose a nigga from Inglewood, it would be him.
Do you mean to say that during your vetting, you just picked an ordinary Negro? I mean, like Method Man or Reggie Noble?
Reggie Noble?
What is this?
Who is this Reggie Noble?
Who is it of which you speak? Who's this Chuck D?
What is Brick City? Where can this be found?
Where is this Brick City?
All right. Veronica, 30 seconds and then I gotta go.
Yeah, I just hope that we as Black people can really begin to understand that we have to grieve, and that our feelings are not our enemies, and that, you know, going back and actually giving ourselves the opportunity to re-experience those, it creates a tremendous amount of healing. Because one of the things that I've also found is that when you do that, you know, when people go in and reconcile those things in themselves, they tend to automatically have more empathy for other people. They tend to get over themselves more. They tend to have a larger vision for other people in the community. So it's not just that it benefits one individually to go in and begin to process those feelings. It also creates better human stewards of our community. It's a byproduct. So I hope that we can begin to consider that as a reality.
Good stuff. Doc, and then we're going to the final thought.
Yeah, a quick question. I don't know if we'll get to it, but Veronica, don't you think that a lot of people, Black and others, especially men, have a fear of feeling? Because when you feel something, you're vulnerable. And if you're vulnerable and you mix vulnerability with a pervasive distrust of everything, it's very difficult to allow yourself to be vulnerable when you're just immersed in this feeling. I can't trust anyone, and I can't even trust my own mind, because if I get to this place of feeling and vulnerability and I can't trust others, I can't trust myself, what if I get stuck there? And do you think any of that's operating?
It's very true, and I see it with my clients all the time. In other words, and I have a lot of male clients, and I have to actually support them in breaking kind of all the way down and getting to the truth and feeling the concomitant feelings. There's so much freedom on the other side of it that if we knew how much freedom there was on the other side of it, we would never hold on to the feelings again.
Wow.
Right? If we actually knew how free we could be on the other side. And that's true for women too.
Wow, we gotta go to the final thought really quickly, but man, you guys are dropping bombs. So, you guys already know, final thought, you guys already know I freaking love J. Krishnamurti. And I'm going to start the final thought off with a quote I often, recite of his, and that is, "It is no measure of health to be fully integrated into a sick society." And we've made living in a state of coping, in a state of grief, sustained grief, because grief means oppression. We have made that comfortable. We have found benchmarks in mediocrity, right? In order to feel like, oh, I made it, I'm successful. You should not be able to say you're successful when you didn't write the social media, the social narrative of what success means to you, right? A lot of people are pursuing some shit that somebody else wrote, and then once they get it, are disappointed and left unfulfilled. God has a funny way of giving you exactly what you thought you want, so you could recognize that what you want wasn't enough in the first place. God has a funny way of doing that. So with that said, I have a few points I want to make to my people who are living in this sustained space of grief. And that is, as long as there is no organized unity amongst black folk, we will continue to be an emotionally, culturally, and financially homeless people. We are nomads amongst each other. It's fucked up, but that's who we are. We're nomads amongst each other. There is no home base, even when we commiserate. It's fucked up, but it's true. We black folks are the physical living manifestation of soul food, something that has, through our creativity, right, has become a delicacy, but is still really not good for us. So the way we interact, the way we relate, the way we interface, the lack of forgiveness, the mistrust, the hate, the self-hate makes us living soul food. We're walking around, hog-mogging it, physical hog-mogs. That's who we are. It's unfortunate, but that's how I view us. The pursuit of money, right, as a means of gaining happiness is an outside job. But the pursuit of happiness has always been an inside job. And until we as individuals start finding what it means to be happy as ourselves and not who we think the world wants to see us as, there's no way we're going to be happy with other black people we see trying to be something somebody else said you were supposed to be. That's just fuck, right? So, yeah, you can get the money, but that's an outside job. The happiness is inside work. Every art form that black people created in America was created out of our collective grief. Whether it's jazz, whether it's fucking blues, whether it's hip hop, it gave us all of it. Grief gave us all of that. But what are we going to give our artistic expression now? Imagine if we created hip hop, blues, and jazz from grief. Imagine what we could create from freedom. The thought is fucking frightening. If you can imagine what we can create from a space of spiritual, emotional, and financial autonomy. But we too busy trying to maintain the status quo because we're afraid to live in the uncertainty of what it means to be free. We'd rather be certain slaves than powerful freemen, right? We'd rather, because we know tomorrow Massa is going to give us a student loan. Massa is going to acknowledge our work in whatever industry he controls. We'd rather have that. If we continue to hustle, I'm going to steal this from one of the Twitter fans, and then that's it. If we continue to hustle by ourselves, we will continue to hustle backwards. That's just it, man. That's my final thought. Veronica Conway, where can they find you and how can they support your work?
Blackmastery.com as usual. We like to reprogram black minds around here. And we are launching another business boot camp this week. So if you want to come and get your business on, you can email me at veronica@veronicaconway.com.
Geoff, You all right?
Good. Swimming in that depth, brother. Geoff Brown, Dig That. The first one is up. Go check it out. Look for me tomorrow. I will be writing and in the shadows of the D.L. Hughley radio show.
Excellent, brother.
Great things happening.
Yes. Love it. Hey, seriously. Order your copy. The Relationship Dismount. Go to my website, iamzowilliams.com. Order your copy. The physical copies of this book, I've been told today, have been mailed out today. They shipped today. So when I get them, we're sending them out ASAP. Please continue to support my movement. I'm asking that at least 10 listeners, please go to Amazon.com and purchase a digital copy of The Relationship Dismount. I want to keep it at number one, the number one new release this whole month. I'm just asking 10 listeners to go support that book on Amazon.com, Kindle. Support it today. And please write a review. I appreciate all of that. And thanks again for tuning in. And we'll be back. What is that? Oh, Dash Radio tonight. Tune in to the Dash Radio show from 5 to 7 p.m. You got to get the Dash Radio app. And once you get the app, then you go to Hot Button. We're on Hot Button Radio on the Dash Radio app. The only way to listen to that show live is to download the app. We appreciate everybody for tuning in. I appreciate you all, man, for everything you guys have done. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week. Deuces.